days later, Jesus took with him Peter and James and his brother John, and led them up a high mountain. And he was transfigured before them, and his face shone like the sun, and his clothes became dazzling white. Suddenly there appeared to them Moses and Elijah, talking with him. Then Peter said to Jesus, "Lord, it is good for us to be here with you. If you wish, I will make 3 dwellings here, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." While he was still speaking, suddenly a bright cloud overshadowed them, and from the cloud a voice said, "This is my Son, the Beloved. With him I am well pleased. Listen to him." When the disciples heard this, they fell to the ground and were overcome by fear, and when they looked up, they saw no one except for Jesus himself alone. As they were coming down the mountain, Jesus ordered them, "Tell no one about the vision until after the Son of Man has been raised from the dead." I've always loved the mountains. Just to gaze out over the vastness of creation from high upon a mountain is something that I find thrilling, and I have done more than my fair share of climbing them and camping out within their shadow. The famous mountaineer George Mallory died while trying to climb Mount Everest in the 1920s. He was once asked why he wanted to climb the mountain, and he replied simply, "Because it's there." Last year, some young celebrities, including Gary Barlow of Take That, Ronan Keating of Boyzone, and Cheryl Cole of Girls Aloud, climbed Mount Kilimanjaro because it's there, and also with the aim of raising much needed funds for comic relief. But the Old Testament's famous figures could hardly have had a more different attitude to mountains. They went up mountains because they had been called there by God for a special purpose. God called Moses up Mount Sinai to give him the law, and when Moses came down, his face shone so brightly because he had been speaking to God that the other Israelites would not even come close to him. When the prophet Elijah was discouraged, God called him to Mount Horeb and gave him a new heart to confront the wickedness of King Ahab and his wife Jezebel. Today's Gospel reading shows Jesus in the same tradition, as Moses and Elijah appear with him on the mountain. Like Moses after speaking with the Lord, Jesus becomes dazzlingly bright. But the reading also underlines that Jesus' role in God's plan for us goes far beyond the roles of Moses and Elijah. Shortly before the Transfiguration on the mountain, Jesus had asked the disciples who they thought he really was. Peter said that Jesus was actually the Messiah, not merely another prophet or Elijah returned. But when Jesus went on to explain that being the Messiah would involve rejection and then rising from the dead, Peter objected. Presumably Peter had been expecting that when the Messiah came, he would clear out corruption in the temple or drive the Romans out of Jewish territory. He clearly wasn't expecting him to be killed. Jesus rebuked Peter sharply, saying that his way of thought was the human way, not God's way. By dying for us and rising from the dead, Jesus conquered death itself and made it possible for us to be free of our enslavement to sin. It's striking that even on the way down the mountain, the disciples still didn't seem to be able to take in fully what Jesus had said about himself, because in Mark's account of this event, we are told that they discussed what rising from the dead could mean. And as we journey into Lent, then it helps us to remember that if we truly commit our lives to Jesus' guidance, if we truly place in him a faith like Abraham's, then, as St. Paul says, God will be on our side. Who then can condemn us?